Technology Evaluation Centres. We are an impartial software advisory firm whose expertise lies in the assessment, evaluation and selection of enterprise software. We've been helping companies of all sizes for almost 25 years in making the right decisions for their unique and prioritized needs. And through the hundreds of engagements that we've been involved in, we've built and grown this expertise to become a leader in this area. And we'll talk a lot more about those elements in the second portion of our webinar. But quick question for you right off the bat, and that is, why did you register for this webinar? And I'm going to share with you right now a poll, if I may, which asks those very questions. And that poll is currently and should be visible to you now. So why did you register? Are you looking to replace a legacy system? Do you have multiple systems that you're looking to consolidate? Is the business telling you that you need to do something, but you don't really know what to do? Do you know you just need new functionality and software that you currently do not have? Are you being pushed to upgrade to the next version, but unsure of if it's the right choice? And finally, are you here to learn a bit? So we'll take 1 second to let you guys respond to the poll, and we will come back to that in a few slides. In about 5 seconds, I'll close the poll. All right. Hopefully everyone has had the opportunity to respond appropriately. And so I will now close the poll. Okay. So now we will move back to our presentation. Okay. Okay, so at this point I'd like to formally introduce Mehdi Aftahi. He's the CTO of Technology Evaluation Centres. Mehdi is one of the founders of TEC, author of TEC's Decision Support Technology, and leads our project delivery team. And in the 20 years that Mehdi's been with our organization, I'm pretty sure that there's little he's not seen or witnessed for companies who are looking to make significant software decisions. So Mehdi, I would like to pass the baton over to you.
Thank you very much, Paul. I just wanted to start by asking the question, like when is it the right time actually for you to make a move on your current ERP system? So basically, without any, getting into too many details on why and how, we can basically summarize it in this kind of a checklist. So if you're looking at your system that is in operations for more than 3 years and you haven't done any major upgrades, and basically the system is standing still in terms of functionality and business processes, that's one of the conditions that I would say it's a flag for you to start looking at different systems or making an upgrade. The other condition would be, like, if you have done some minor upgrades, but there was no major changes to your system within the last 5 years. It's still, in that case, I would say that your system probably is outdated with respect to your business processes. Now, other cases might be that your business has changed since you first installed your ERP system, or even from the start of the process, you didn't have the full coverage of all of your business processes due to any constraints you might have at the beginning of your project, or you were not sure where you're going with. Or, as Paul was mentioning in his poll as well, you have multiple systems in your organization, and it's time for you to consolidate all of these systems under one ERP system. At the same time, there are so many companies that have their legacy system and is a homegrown system, and with the business changing, it becomes harder and harder and more expensive to operate that system and to be able to get the needs of their systems in place. So with that, I would pass it back to Paul to see what our users were saying in terms of the reasons they're joining this conference.
Thank you. So, I think this is a perfect time to come back to our poll and just have a look at what some of those results are, because I think they're going to correlate largely with the next part of your session, Mehdi. And so right now, we should be able to have a look at these results. And what I'm seeing is about 14% looking to replace their legacy system. Wow, 14% is the business telling them they need to do something, not quite sure what. Looking for new functionality or software. Being pushed to upgrade, 10%. And a lot of people here to learn. So that's great. All right. Let's see what that tells us in terms of some of the real reasons that we've learned, Mehdi, over the years.
So go back. So in reality, what we also hear from the market is that around 40% of our users, basically they have multiple systems, and around 50%, they're basically looking for new systems. They have certain tools like Office tools and Excel that they're actually helping them to cope with the gaps between the functionality that the ERP system or the system cannot deliver. So basically, when you look at the reasons that people come to our site, our website, and look for new systems and the ERP systems and in general enterprise applications, when we look at the 2 years past history of our users, we see that 50% are looking at replacing the legacy systems they have in their organizations. And 17% correspond to multiple systems in place. They're looking for consolidation. So this is mainly consistent with the poll results that we received from you guys in here, and only 17% correspond to people that are looking for a new system. When we look at the reasons to change, again, something that you might basically correlate with is that around 36% of people looking at an upgrade or a change in ERP, a way to add additional functionality to their current ERP project, ERP system. And 24%, they're looking at an opportunity or the lack of technological features for the upgrade or a change in the system. So the two main functionality, which corresponds to 60% of overall, we're looking at technology and functionality. Now, there are some companies that are looking for a new system because they're lacking a module or two within their ERP implementation, and that's in our studies, it's only 15% of the people, and only 13% they're looking for an ERP upgrade as a transformational change within their organization to adopt best practices and to move on to progress their business opportunities. Now, these are the reasons that is forcing people to get into a change in their ERP systems, and what kind of benefits they're looking for in an upgrade or a migrate process. And mostly true with an upgrade, they are looking for a new functionality or to improve performance. And the three top reasons usually are getting aligned with technology, improved performance, or functionality. The rest, for an upgrade point of view, takes the back seat, and basically the most perceived benefit of the ERP is the functionality, performance, and technology. Which brings me to the next point that I wanted to make, which is when you are trying to make a move on your ERP system, what areas you should be focusing on and what to consider. I have come up with 5 distinct areas. Of course, if you want to get into more details, you can have other areas that you have to be looking at, but the major points are where you have customization. So the customization is usually the hurdles for you to get into your upgrade process. So if you have done any customization on your current system or you are not satisfied 100% with your current system, you need to do customization. These are the things that makes you move, and you have to be aware of all the past, present, and future customization when you are looking into a new system, whether you're upgrading or you're basically looking at a new system. The next major subject is the data integrity. So anytime you're changing anything in your system, you have to be aware of the data, where the data losses are going to be, where the data is not consistent and may actually cause you trouble in adoption of the new system, whether it being an upgrade or a new system. Then you need to actually convince the users and get into the change management and make sure that the users of your system are aware of the reasons behind the change, and we are not just changing for the sake of change. Which brings me to the next point, which is the functionality or the system that you are trying to bring in terms of technology and evolving technologies. So you need to look at the system, you need to look at the technology that it's offering, and evaluate all the niche players that might have come to the market since you first installed your ERP system. So the ERP market is actually very fluid market in terms of players coming in and being basically offering their services. So anytime that you look at the market, there might be new vendors out there that might be able to offer you the solution that you want, that you currently may be customizing, or with multiple systems putting together, they might be able to give it to you in a very integrated kind of solution. The next thing that you have to look at, and it's true with any IT project, is the cost. You have to be able to compare the cost of your upgrade, your migration, and to be able to compare that with the cost of running your current system. And in that calculation, you need to be able to take into account the loss of productivity, loss of performance, and the cost of running or maintaining your customized code or legacy system, which, it's in a way, it's the total cost of the running of your system versus the total cost of ownership on the new system that you have. So if you're talking about functionality, which probably is one of the most common reasons or conceived or perceived, it's not conceived, perceived benefits of the ERP system, and we look at the trends in the change in the functionality throughout the years. And I have put this slide together by looking at 4 major players in the ERP market, going back to 2008 and accumulating all the out-of-the-box features that they have. If you look at our database, we have more than 10,000 criteria that correspond to an ERP implementation of software, and we have accumulated data since the year 2000. For this study, we went from 2008 to 2016, and we went through different versions of the applications. And as you can see, in a very, very high level point of view, although the software applications that have been in the market for a long time have improved in terms of functionality that they can offer out of the box, the curve and the slope on this curve is not that steep. So basically what we can see from Microsoft on the top left corner to Infor on the top right corner, and Oracle is at the bottom left with two products, JD Edwards at E-Business Suite, and SAP on the bottom right section. You can see that the functionality is actually pretty flat in terms of progress. So that basically shows that if your business has grown in a different kind of slope or pattern, maybe the functionality improvement from your current vendor is not sufficient to cover that gap. Again, I'm not saying this is an absolute fact. You have to study the different applications, your gaps in your processes, and make the conclusion that is it or is not a proper way for you to go forward. So that covers the functionality aspect. Now, what about technology? So when we're talking about technology, we are talking about infrastructure, we're talking about deployment method, and one of the hottest subjects today in the market is the cloud. So in the cloud concept, some companies may be looking at the cloud as the reason for to make the next move. As a matter of fact, Gartner had issued a report in 2014 saying that 30% of the companies are going to move to the cloud for their ERP system. And again, I'm emphasizing on the ERP because that's the topic of our discussion today, by the year 2018. So 30% by 2018 are going to move to the cloud. But we are in 2016, and we don't see that mass migration to the cloud, mainly because of the concerns that companies have in terms of putting their data online, getting the vendor lock-in, and basically integration between the systems that may hamper their operations in terms of ERP and their business processes. That might not be true on all the other different types of applications, enterprise applications. So for example, in CRM, you can see a better move to the cloud or smoother move to the cloud. So having said that, if we look at the data, and when we look at a recent survey done by Oracle, we can see that 72% of people that were questioned, they said that they are currently on an on-premise, and they're planning to stay on-premise. So it's a huge number. So the reality on the ERP market, at least, is not the same as in other enterprise application areas. So what are the facts for the upgrades? Based on the data that we have, most of the companies are running, that's 50% of the companies that surveyed, are running ERP systems that are 5 years old or older than 5 years. So the cost and the lack of functionality or the lack of the movement on their ERP system, it can actually be a concern to their business. Getting into a new system and going through an upgrade could actually be 6 to 12 months process for them. And most people are attempting the functionality, as we discussed before, based on a specific function or technology that they request. And only 10% they're looking at as upgrade as a way to transform their enterprise. Usually the upgrade process targeting the project management, financials, and procurement processes, and overseen by finance, the IT executives. Now, based on that, again, the data that we have shows that there are at least 64% of the people that are in the ERP market, they are not moving and jumping on a new release when the new release is out. So they're looking at this upgrade process depending on the IT priorities, their budgets, and depending on the release itself. And only around 10% are looking at an upgrade for every 5 years. And around 10% or 11% are current with their ERP system. So these numbers are actually telling the fact that most of the systems that are out there are actually getting outdated as we go. Now, apparently, given that there are certain risk factors for the upgrade or migration. Originally, when we were looking at the upgrade risks, and we were trying to split this slide into two, say, okay, this is the upgrade risk, these are the migration risks, and eventually we've concluded that the risks are similar. So basically, you have to go through the same kind of process when you do a major upgrade or a migration. So you have to still do the testing. You have your internal resources trained the same way. Might be not the same kind of process, but you still have to maintain your customizations or adopt new customization for your new system. And you have to have executive buy-ins and so on and so forth. So you will have the same kind of risks associated with migration or upgrade. So you better look at the entire scope before you jumping on your project. So the key factors for a successful migration or upgrade, our recommendation is you have to discover your processes, scrutinize and optimize all your processes, find the and analyze your current systems against those processes and methods in place, and find the gaps and shortcomings that are out there which can hamper your progress in terms of your business. Prioritize your requirements and determine the critical features that you need for your organization. Based on that, you have to actually migrate and identify the data and clean it. Evaluate the systems in the market, including your current system, and add your current system with its new features or new versions of your current system into that analysis. There might be a better system out there, or if you feel that your current system is actually delivering what you need, then you can stay put and do not do anything. Basically, that concludes my presentation as well.
Thank you, Mehdi. Certainly lots to think about in terms of the options that you have and the factors that you need to consider when making those decisions. So before we move on to section 2, just a quick reminder that should you have any questions for Mehdi or for Michael as we move forward, then please do hold them for the QA session that will follow. You'll be able to add those questions online, or do send them to us now via email, ssadmin, ssadmin, at techcenters.com. And we'll, of course, queue those up and respond to them at the appropriate time. So, okay, we're going to move on to segment 2. We're going to introduce the tech approach to assessment and evaluation. I'd like to introduce Michael Thaw. And he's been working as director of our selection services team for the past 10 years, identifying companies' needs and recommending solutions and services to address them. And he's been absolutely pivotal in designing the programs and services that tech offers to our clientele and explaining the value in taking the tech approach to enterprise software assessment, evaluation, and selection. So, Michael, over to you.
Hi, everybody. So I want to share our experience and our approach to help you validate and confirm your decisions, your upgrade, migrate, status quo decisions. Even if you think you already know what you're doing, you want to validate that. And that's for your success. So how do you view this type of research? Do you view it as a walk down the yellow brick road, nice and smooth, or a marathon where you have to pace yourself? There's hills there. And if you don't stay focused, you're not going to finish. Or is this like being in rough waters, struggling to stay out of the waters, away from the sharks? Most organizations say it's somewhere between 2 and 3. The realities of these types of selections are that there's many challenges and difficulties. They result in the higher cost of purchases, operations. They even jeopardize implementations altogether. And there's not a clear path. So the bottom line is that it does affect business operations. So what drives this impact on business operations or fails implementations is really how these different challenges interact. So software vendors and implementers don't necessarily understand your business. And when your people communicate the needs, they can be misunderstood, clear answers aren't given, and so you have to really separate the fact from the fact that the vendors want to say yes to you. You definitely don't want the vendors to do the assessment need because that'll only suit their solution. So the other approach is that you have to be able to consider the time of your people that are running your business. You don't want to take them off the front line unnecessarily, so they have to be engaged in an optimal way. And there has to be a clear approach, one that can measure what's going on. And of course, the biggest challenge is to be able to get users on board. If a decision is forced on them, they'll resist. But if they're part of the decision and part of the process, they'll make the solution work, even if it's not 100%. So these are the risks or the challenges that affect the failure rate or the waste of spend. And our approach is really about minimizing these challenges. Vendors employ professionals to sell their solution that are not necessarily realistic about expectations. So here's an approach that will help you become a professional buyer of enterprise software to ensure your success. And that approach starts with understanding why. What's the real driver behind the research that you're doing? So if you know that, then you can look at additional pain points, and then you can move outside the circle into how you're going to get there, what happens next, what's the decision process, the timelines, and who's involved. And don't underestimate the significance of a thorough evaluation, one that brings you to the point where you need to be informed. You need to have your eyes wide open before you get the decision. Understand what you're getting and you're not getting. You're going to live with these types of decisions for 10 years or more. So you want to include factors like making sure that you do your due diligence, that you look at your current and your future needs. The evaluation has to be impartial, and you have to build consensus in your organization. This can't be an IT-driven initiative. You want it to be business-driven. You want to engage the right people in your organization. And you want the evaluation process to be transparent and easily understood. Have audit trails, and there to be a clear decision process once the results are found. What about defining those future requirements? What about the unknown unknowns? What you don't know about what you don't know? And our approach is stay focused on what your priorities are. And then align your future requirements against your organizational objectives, your goals, and your strategies. If your organization wants to move into growth by acquisition, or move into international markets, or maybe employ a greater third-party logistics approach, create more design. These are very telling about the type of functionality that you'll need. My point number 3 here says flexible solution, and that really refers to the changing times that we live in, and you have to be able to adapt. So you're looking for a flexible, scalable solution. And don't forget to do your homework. Enough research with enough vendors that will give you an indication about their roadmap. What are their best practices for functionality and for process? And the last point, I think, is vital. Don't forget to assess the corporate culture between your organization and the vendors and the partners. We see that many of our clients actually make the decision primarily based on the corporate fit, because the unknowns that are going to be encountered, you need partners that will be able to work with you to help you through those. So we're going to show you how to put all the pieces together in the puzzle in the right order, so that you don't forget anything that's vital, so that you'll have all the elements taken care of in your evaluation and selection. So let me just take half a step back. We are an impartial advocate for you, the enterprise purchaser. And so we have been focused on evaluation and selection for more than 25 years. That's the longest of any organization that's out there. And we're not IT or management consultants. We're focused on evaluation and selection. So we help companies simply research, evaluate, and select the best fit technologies against their needs, and in the process build the foundation for implementation success. So we're more concerned with the efficient process that you go through versus who you choose. And this is all based on an informed decision. So the reason I'm telling you this is that we have found a way to store and leverage our experiences and to share or to bring them to you in your project. And so we've developed these 4 core competencies as part of our best practice approach. At the foundation of what we do is our research. This is our databases of product, vendor, industry information that consists of resources like complete best practice listings of functional and technical requirement sets. And as you can see from some of those buyer's guide images at the bottom of the screen, they're not only for ERP, they're for other enterprise applications, BI, CRM, HCM. And so we can build them together to reflect the scope of your project. They're also the buyer's guides and other analyst reports. Also at the foundation of what we do is a proven methodology, one that has evolved in all the years of us working on evaluation and selection projects. And the basis of our methodology is a thorough, efficient approach that will base your decision on all the decision factors with a clear audit trail, transparent process, and all the time working in a healthy, competitive environment. So let's just focus in on this. I'm going to be brief and talk to you about this at the high level. So the first phase of our methodology is the research phase. This is where your requirements are defined very clearly, your current and your future requirements. And those requirements are broken down into 2 fundamental sections. The first section is the functional section. That's how you're going to use the solution. And the second section is the technology section. This is the IT architecture, the servers, databases, and integration. So those future and current requirements are then prioritized because they're not all of the same importance. That's the first phase of research. The second phase of research, this is the phase that at the outcome, you will have the business case to be able to decide whether you want to upgrade, migrate, or stay with your same solution. And so the unique and prioritized requirements are assembled in a complete requirement set. This is used as the basis for your RFI or RFP. And we measure this in detail against vendor capabilities. And you get a clear understanding, and those vendor capabilities, by the way, are your current system, your upgraded system, other systems including both integrated and best of breed, on-premise and cloud solutions, so that you can have a full perspective. you get an idea about the solutions that will meet your needs to the greatest extent. Those are the ones that you want to focus on. The ones that meet it to the lesser extent, you take off the list. Then on those that meet your needs to the greatest extent, you can do a gap analysis, because not all the solutions are going to meet your needs out of the box or off the shelf. So you need to understand where it does. And through working through these different scores, graphs, analysis, and these measurements, you'll be able to focus on what the right approach is. Through this approach, you'll be able to get a short list. This is the basis for being able to decide if you want to stay with the same solution or move to another solution. If you decide that you either want to upgrade or migrate, then you want to go on to the phase 3, the technology decision phase. So what we did in the first 2 phases was we understood what the vendors have. Now it's a matter of understanding, based on the short list, how they deliver what you're looking for. So you want to continue the consensus building by getting different users to participate in the activities and capture their feelings. This list in the center of the screen inside the gray box are the different activities, different decision factors that would let you determine how the vendors and implementers deliver what you're looking for. If I can use the second item, scripted demonstrations, as the example, a set of demonstration scripts is created for the vendors from you. That would be something that we do or that you could do yourself. And the vendors would come in and they would demonstrate to your different users based on how you would use the solution. Scorecards are created for your different users that would sit in on the appropriate part of the demonstration, and they would score the vendors based on what they see, how intuitive the solution is. These scores are gathered, they're consolidated, they're entered into the decision process with the right weighting, and they become part of the overall assessment. The same thing is done with market data. This is the analysis of the implementer with references, with the RFP, with ease of use and process fit, and now you have scores for all of the different decision factors. You can see how the different vendors and implementers rank together. Now we're going to mix cost and a value analysis into the equation in order to be able to help you choose the best solution at the best value in order to be able to go and select a solution like this. This approach is really about minimizing your efforts and involvement, but to maximize the output. So these types of enterprise solutions, if I take ERP as the example, they impact the entire organization. So it's more than just about choosing one of the options. It's about ensuring that you build consensus. You have a strong negotiation strategy to choose the best solution from the best vendor at the best price. And it's about taking a look at the end objective, getting through the implementation successfully so that you can become operationally more efficient with the new solution. At the heart of what we do is our technology, and this is a quantitative scoring and analysis system. We call it Tech Advisor. Think of it as a dashboard that shows you what's happening at each stage of the evaluation and selection. So let me just take a closer look at our Tech Advisor system. It's a decision support system. This is a solution that we created that's a web-based solution. It helps you assess thousands of criteria in a decision model where you're comparing vendors against each other and against your needs in a competitive environment. There's a very clear path to how your decisions are evolving based on scores, graphs, and analysis. It engages subject matter experts, stakeholders, and executives in a clear audit trail to your decision. So here's a couple of screenshots. On the far left, you can see the decision model, and in the center of that screen, how you assess weighting or priority. On the far right-hand side, this product comparison graph lets you baseline any solution, including your existing solution, and lets you see how other solutions fare against it, what you're getting and you're not getting from those other solutions. So you can imagine working down anywhere within your decision factor hierarchy and scoring those different solutions to see how they would rate and score here. And at the bottom of the screen are the scores that would come as a result of all the decision factors, bringing price in so you can do a value analysis. So our fourth core competency, our leading, our preeminent competency, is our project delivery. This is how we work with you from the beginning to the end of your evaluation projects. Our project delivery team consists of our senior project delivery managers, the analysts that work with them, and they're supported by our content and development teams. And their role is to be able to work with you from the beginning to the end of the evaluation project. We take a project management approach, so you can imagine that we understand the scope of the project and all of the decision factors with you. We create this project plan. This project plan is given to you, and you're able to work with us through each of the different activities. So the activities are defined, the responsibilities are discussed and agreed upon, and each stage is completed, and you confirm what happens at the end of each stage. So through this whole approach, our role is to be able to help you work through each of the different steps and bring the decision factors to you. If you want our opinion, we give it to you, but those decisions are made by you at each stage, given all the right information. And through this approach, we help drive the project through to completion. So this approach is a little bit different than traditional consulting. It's about ensuring transparency and objectivity that's based on a quantitative analysis. You want to get buy-in from your different users. They'll be implementing either successfully or not. And you don't want to learn something when you're implementing or using a solution. You want to make sure that you evaluate whatever's important to you against everything that you want to look at. You want to look at all aspects of the decision. And you want to leverage this information to choose the best solution from the best vendor at the best price. It's about keeping your eye on the end objective, getting through the implementation so that you can become operationally more efficient. So I have one or two more slides that I want to share with you. At Technology Evaluation Centers, we have different evaluation programs or projects that are designed to meet your objectives through the life cycle of your software initiatives, from business case right through to post-implementation. So if we can look at the pre-selection, this is the business case. This is where you would make a decision about upgrading, migrating, or staying with your same solution. It lets you understand what the vendors have and be able to create a business case on it. The evaluation and selection is the beginning to end evaluation and selection of a new solution or of an upgrade. And so it not only leverages the information of a pre-selection, it takes you through every step. And the post-selection is to be able to ensure more success, to mitigate risks in the implementation phase. This is my second last slide, but I'd like to take a moment to just summarize everything that we've talked about. In order to be able to come up with a good assessment, a good approach to making sure that you can work through your research challenges, you want to make sure that you follow at least these fundamental steps, that you clearly understand the functionality and technology that your organization needs, and that you can measure the requirements, these requirements, against all possible solutions. That allows you to do your due diligence, and that includes best of breed, integrated, on-premise, and cloud solutions all at the same time, and focus in on those solutions that meet your needs to the greatest extent. Do the gap analysis, and then get introduced to the vendors. Get a feel for how their solution looks and feels, and bring pricing into the equation. And this will help you work through your challenges clearly. So my final slide. This is about ensuring that there's a clear path, that you're able to run your business and a strategic evaluation project at the same time. You don't want to skip any key steps and overlook something that's important to your organization, but you want to get to an informed decision efficiently, and this is the best approach to doing that. So just before I conclude, wherever you are in your decision process, whether you want to upgrade, migrate, or stay with the same solution, we can help you along that path. Please don't hesitate. We can share our insight and our guidance with you, and even our resources and services. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. All right, folks, thank you very much, and I hope that's been of use to you. As I did mention, we are going to open our QA session now, and if you can bear with me just for a moment or two, I will launch the QA window. It should be here in just a second. Which you should see appearing, and you can submit any questions that you wish to. Now, I have had a couple of questions which have come through via email, and some excellent questions, and I'm actually going to pose the first question to Mehdi, and I know exactly, I believe, which slide this refers to. But the question is, Mehdi, are you saying that the software vendors today are not necessarily keeping up with business evolution? And I believe that points potentially to the slide where you talk about the rise in functionality of these specific vendors.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I was expecting that kind of a reaction, but the reality is that the businesses are changing in much different pace than the software versions from one version to the next. So if you're looking at a particular functionality that your business requires and it's not in your current ERP solution, just the upgrade might not be the actual answer to your question. So for example, if you're going from version 10 to 11 of a particular application, it may not be dramatically different than the previous version. So may not actually have the advantages that you want. So again, what I wanted to also say that what we looked at that chart was supported out of the box functionality across different versions going back to 8 years. So you have to look at the particular functionality that you're looking for and analyze and answer basically to see if the new version answers your requirements.
Okay, thank you. So I've had a question via our QA question and answer screen here. The question is, who are the best people who should participate in scripted demos? I'm not quite sure what the remainder of the question is actually asking, so maybe I can just curtail the question to that. So Michael, I guess in your experience, who are the best people to participate in the scripted demonstrations?
So the scripted demonstrations are fairly advanced in terms of the evaluation process. They don't come at the beginning. The beginning part is all about requirements and understanding. This is when you want to engage the shortlist. Now the scripted demonstrations take you through the complete solution. So you want to have the appropriate people sit in on the appropriate section. So if I was to use finance as an area of focus, the subject matter experts and stakeholders are going to sit in on those different sessions. And in this way, you'll be able to capture representative. These subject matter experts are the representatives of your larger team, and so they'll be representing the right people for the right functional business group relative to that section. And they'll be able to score the vendors accordingly.
Okay. Mehdi, I guess I have another question for you. And the question is on the larger scale. Do you see that companies are moving towards a single solution, or are they still moving to a mix of different applications, a kind of best of breed approach? And that's my paraphrasing, but that's essentially the question.
Again, a very good question, and it's what would they say? It's $1 million question or multiple $1 million question. What we see in the market, as opposed to like 5-10 years ago, where companies, large organizations, were opting in for a best of breed kind of approach and having multiple ERP systems taking care of their main modules. We don't see that trend anymore. We see more applications going towards integrated solutions that cover all the major modules of their ERP systems. And then if there are sections or processes within the organization that are requiring niche products, they may opt in for smaller applications with niche functionality, but integrate them within their ERP system. So the goal of most of the enterprises that we go and visit is to have a single solution for their entire enterprise.
All right. Another question for Michael. So Michael, in your experience, how long should a typical upgrade or new system assessment take?
Well, those are two different questions. So if you want to take a look at deciding whether to go with an upgrade or migrate or even stay with your same solution, to do that properly, you need a couple of months. And that way you can run your business and at the same time work through the right considerations, get the right answers back from the vendors. Of course, you can make it a lot more concise and get it down to 1 month, but that's a lot of focus. It's a lot of, and for a complete selection, that's a different story. That's more like a 3 or 4 month exercise because there's a few different interactions with the vendors that'll definitely take time, and you have to bring in different users and different assessments with different teams in your organization.
Okay. I do have another question, and actually, you know what? I might actually throw this out to both of you because we're 2 and 2 so far. The question is, what is the best way to gather requirements?
So this is Michael speaking. What we've seen is that, first of all, it's a matter of being able to take into consideration what the entire scope of the project. And then there has to be discussions with the project team and your team leaders in order to be able to identify the different functional business groups. Those functional business groups should be scheduled for discussions that can review how they use your current solution and what they need. And so it's during those discussions that there's discussion about the processes that they use, about the type of functionality that they use. What our team often does is they bring in not only the experience that we have in terms of being able to work with different companies, but also we use our best practice listing of requirements to make sure that we haven't forgot any important requirements or to try and plant seeds. And then there has to be those leading questions about your strategies and your objectives in terms of defining future functionality.
All right. Okay. Thank you. You know what? I'm going to leave the response just at that. Thank you, Michael. Mehdi, I do have a question. I am going to make this our last question of the day. Just as I said, I am very keen to respect our timeline, and we have just a couple of minutes to go. If there are any questions that follow, please do feel free to submit them via the ssadmin@techcenters.com email address. We will, of course, be following up. We're going to be sending you some links to our buyer's guides, to our feature functionality sets, and a wealth of information that I hope is going to be tremendously useful for you. But to close up our session today, a question for Mehdi, and that is, how do you stay current on new functionality/offerings from the various vendors? Do you have partner agreements with them?
Okay. What we do actually, we are, as Michael mentioned, we are a totally impartial software evaluation firm. And we do have some agreements with vendors, but in terms of getting the data, they usually give us the data when they participate in our projects. So for a specific project, they have to submit the information, and we capture that information, and because of our decision support system, we can actually capture that information and accumulate this information going from one project to the next. There are other programs also that vendors can basically opt into, which is our certification program and again, participating in our buyer's guide, which allows us to ask questions about their functionality. So in order for them to participate in our content generation programs, they must submit product information to us. But we do not actually, in any shape or form, get paid to post any functionality for the vendors.
I hope that answers your question. Folks, thank you so much once again. It's now 2 p.m. EST. I want to thank you again very much for taking your time today to join us for this webinar. We look forward to future webinars. This webinar will be available online in due course, and we will send you a link to this. As I say, look out for our email. We'll also send a very short survey just to, so you can provide some feedback. We're always looking to improve these kind of sessions, and we would welcome very much your feedback. In the meantime, have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, morning, or evening, and we look forward to talking with you again. Thank you.